All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Neck Up Live. My name is Jeff Ramey with my partner Eugene Collins, and we have got a very special guest with us today, Mr. Michael Deacon. Uh, Mike is a Mike is a current teacher in the Portsmouth City school system. Uh, he has his summers off, like a lot of teachers, and while a lot of teachers were going on vacation and travel ball tournaments, Mike just decided to ride his bicycle from Portsmouth, Ohio, down to Florida. So, Mike, first of all, I gotta ask. I'm gonna just come strong right out of the gate. What in the world were you thinking?
Uh, I think I was just thinking it's time to humble myself a little bit.
Mhm.
I sometimes enjoy the unknown when I go out on these bike trips. Even though I set up a GPS travel route, I'm not as a per se follow it by the T. Like I don't zoom in on it and I don't check out where exactly I have to turn left, turn right, do all my things there. And I just go. I just hop in and I go. So, I don't know necessarily how many climbs I have. I know the relative elevation, how much I'm gonna climb, over 35,000 feet during this one. And that was mostly in just Kentucky and Tennessee. But so you just it's the unknown, and it's just for me just to humble myself.
Was this a bucket list thing,
Th-
or just something spur of the moment that you just decided you wanted to do?
yeah, not necessarily the bucket list thing. I want to do coast to coast at 50. I think that's going to be more my bucket list. I'm not a racer, so if you wanted to say a bucket list, I'll tell you one is the Tour Divide, and it's a bike packing race that goes from Banff, Canada, to Antelope, New Mexico, and they try to just do it as fast as they can. There's no bells, there's no whistles, it's not televised, there's no medals, there's no nothing like that. It's just a bunch of humans that just put themselves through hell just to get to the other side. And I think that's kind of what it is. I think it's just the idea for me. I put my body through he double hockey sticks for 10, 11 days, and it's terrifyingly exciting. I lose 15 pounds. It's not necessarily that I'm not eating. It's not that I'm not drinking. It's just a simple fact that I'm burning, 10 to 15,000 calories in a day. I don't have
Mhm.
enough time to put it in. Um, but yeah, it's exhilarating. I think it's just suffering is good at sometimes.
Mhm.
Okay.
So, how many stops did you make along the way, and where did you stop, and how did you decide where to stop?
Yeah. So stop wise, I mean, obviously, I mean, I get exhausted every once in a while, so I'll stop momentarily here and there along the trips. So I mean, you could probably count those on my GPS and my Strava. They'll probably pause. This dude pauses a lot. No, I'm just kidding. He does every once in a while. When you get to the top of the hill, even though you know you're coming down, you sit there and go, "Oh man, that was hard. That was tough." So those are my pauses. But I only stopped total of 10 times. I think it is overnights. Yeah, so I do 100 miles a day, and that's pushing it. I think in a sense, 100 miles a day, back to back to back. So those are centuries, right?
Mhm.
So doing those back to back is tough, especially in the summer. And I think one reason I do them is the fact that someone said that I couldn't, or I
Okay.
shouldn't, or it's ill advised, or something like that. So I think you kind of like go around the corner of that, and you hit it. I don't know. You have to hit them in the jaw with it and say, yeah, I can do it.
Yeah. Mike, what when you decided to do this, take us mentally through your preparation to not only do the trip, but how you pack and
Yeah,
some of
yeah,
the things that you kind of encounter that would kind of be a little bit hairy.
yeah. So I started this venture at 40, kind of like my midlife crisis thing. I was taking my daughter to Micah, an art camp in Baltimore, Maryland, and we stopped in Cumberland, Maryland, and I was watching these bikers with these packs on their bikes and all this, just passing us by at this restaurant. And I looked at April and I looked at my kids, kind of like, what the heck's going on here? And then I looked over at this waitress. I said, "What's going on?" She goes, "We're part of this gap in Appalachian or the Great Allegheny Passageway and the CNO. We're right in the cut in the middle of it." And I said, "Backpacking, what is that? Or touring, what is that?" So I had no idea about any of this, right? So then I
Mhm.
got into it, and then it's just my head just spun for days and months and almost a year. And then I did all this research and what's best bikes or what's this, and it's any bike that you have. What's the best packs? Well, whatever you can pack, so you're just going, oh, it's frantic. Then you get on the line and you ask people online or Facebook or whatever it is, and you're like, what do you do? So anywho, I purchased all this stuff in 2018, I think it was, and I like I said, I researched it and I figured out all the things that I need, and then I overpack. I know I overpack. But all right, your quick question was, how do I pack? I pack small enough, but strong enough that I'm not going to be too vulnerable. I pack extra inner tubes, extra patches, glues, tapes, tents, patches for tents, sleeping pads, patches for sleeping pads, 3 pairs of socks, which are made of alpaca wool and other little synthetics that are amazing. You can just reuse them, just air them out and reuse them every day. They're amazing. They don't even stink. It's crazy town. Um, and then just yeah. I don't know. I lost train of thought on all the packing part. Training part. You asked me about the training.
Yeah.
Training. I'm sad to say I'm not a very good trainer. I go to the gym regularly. Throughout the school year and things like that. But it's in cardio and biking. I don't do so much of that. Like to ride bikes with Cole and those guys in the hills and the skate park and the pump track and all that. That always kept me pretty active in the legs with that. But to train for this one, yeah, I popped a 70 miler in one weekend. I put a 30 in. I put another couple 30s in. Spent just a few hours in the indoor trainers. Sat there, just huffed and puffed for a couple hours here and there. And then I was just, yeah, just Ape and I talked about it, and I said I'll leave the 15th.
Tell us about we've talked about this before, and we talked about mind over matter. So how do you train your mind to prepare for such a grueling, not only a grueling trip, but trying to figure out where you're going to sleep, what to eat, when to
Yeah,
eat, all of that.
that's a good one. So yeah, that's the toughest one, the mental part. So what was really hard for me was to leave from my house.
Uh-huh.
All these other trips that I've done, I always left from like a destination. So
Uh-huh.
it's always like they left me. So oh shoot, I have to go get them, right?
Right.
So that is like that. Your mental aspect's already ready to go because you have to go. Like
Right.
they left. Like when I rode from Hartford, Connecticut to Columbus, Ohio. I mean, they left me in Hartford, Connecticut with my bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have to ride it home, right? So,
Right.
in my head, that helped me out 100% in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
For this one, though, just leaving the house, that was harder because it's like 20 miles in, it's like, man, I really don't want to do this. But then you're like,
Uh,
but if I turn back, I'm weak. My wife will
oh,
look at me, so that in my head, I'm thinking those things. So it took me a good my first 100 miles to get me to realize that I don't want to go back over those Kentucky hills to go back
right.
home. So
Mm-hmm.
once I get over that mental block of saying, okay, I'm far enough away, now it's just a simple fact of saying, like you said, about where am I sleeping?
Yeah.
And usually I'm pretty safe in that aspect. I usually try to stop at a fire station or a police station and ask those questions. Hey, do you have a place in town that you wouldn't mind me sleeping at? Or
Uh-huh.
two, could I sleep on your property if that's okay with you? Right. And if they deny both of them, then you kind of just go outside of town and then you'll find a
Yeah.
spot.
Uh-huh.
But then on those one nights that you're pedaling and you're pedaling and you're pedaling and you're pedaling, and it's like you still got more pedal in you, but you forgot, hey, I forgot to eat.
Yeah.
Hey, I forgot to map out a place to sleep. What do you do then? Well, one night I ended up having to sleep at an actual truck stop.
Hmm.
I went into the truck stop. I was going to get some water, things like this, because an RV campsite wouldn't take tent campers or primitive camping. So they kind of just kick you out, or they don't kick you out. They just say, sorry, we don't accept you because you have a tent and it's
Hmm.
not this beautiful camper that they pay X amount of dollars for. And then they could just stick me by the dumpster. I wouldn't have
Right.
cared. Just, you could have stuck me behind the dumpster and no one would ever know I was there. I'd pay you $20. But anyway, so, doing that. So I had to stay at this, at one of the truck stops called Racetrack. And, I said, hey, since this is my rig, because this bike community calls them, this is my rig. Can I sleep here too?
All right.
And so I slept at it. So I slept at a truck stop, which was my first, and it was quite exciting to say
Okay.
the least. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, but other times than that, but yeah, you're right. It is all keeping all things together. Did I drink water this 30 miles? Did I put in any gels in my mouth, or calories of intake or carbohydrates? Did I drink? Did I use the restroom? All these things that you sit there and you think about, which we don't know why you think about, but you do think about them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So what kind of like things that you would drink or eat to keep you from cramping and just keep you being able to go in these hot conditions?
Yeah. So 90% of my intake is water.
Okay.
90% of my intake is water. Um, I take a couple electrolyte tablets. I'll drop into one of my water bottles that I'll sip along the way. That kind of just has a little bit more fizz in it and tastes a little bit better here and there. But as I go on, after I hit my first 50 miles, all that goes out. I'm used Coca-Colas. I'm drinking Sprites. I'm drinking slushies blueberries. I don't care what they are, slushies. I'm drinking anything sugary just to get me high enough so I can just pop through the next 40, 50 miles,
Gotcha.
which is pretty wild to say. So, and I'm not cramping up so much on bike. I
Hmm.
cramped up twice at night when I put myself in that 1 man, 2 man sleeping tent. There's not much
Hmm.
moving. I'm 6'1", and
Right.
those tents are 6 foot, and then only by like 2 foot. So there's not a
Uh-huh.
lot of wiggle room in it, and all my stuff's in it with me, and all this good stuff. So there's times that I'll cramp do it at the nighttime. But after that, though, I did pretty well this trip. This trip surprised me well. 47 years old. I think that was better than my 44th. Yeah, I
Okay.
think, yeah. Yeah, I think I'm getting better at age, coach.
Yeah, hey, it's like wine, buddy. Hey, did you go through the Jellicoe Mountains in Tennessee?
The Who Mountains?
Jellicoe, going
Oh
through.
yeah, I went through Jellicoe. I don't. Yeah, that's what those are called.
Yeah.
Yes, I went through the Jellicoe Mountain.
Oh wow. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
there. That's they. It was very beautiful. It's along a river too.
Uh-huh.
Um, very, very lot of climbs.
Hmm.
Um, very pretty. Very long. That's where I met the dog. No, it's a bear. I was like, this dude's gonna get me. I have a pack of Twizzlers that's open. I have a half a honey bun that's just out there just spraying around. I probably smell like I don't even have a clue what I probably smell like. And I'm sitting there going, this dude's gonna get me. I said, I'm on a bike. That dude's in a 2,000 pound vehicle. Who's he gonna choose? He's gonna choose me. And he didn't. I was like, okay, thank you. Yeah, but that was a very beautiful, that was very scenically beautiful. Yes. I mean, it was drop dead gorgeous. Pack of dogs dropped me in a ditch though. Lost a couple things. Didn't realize it until I got to where I needed to be. And yeah, but yeah, all good. It was fun. It was a lot of climbing. Thanks for bringing that one back up. That was a rough night. That was definitely a rough night. That was definitely a rough night.
What's your so you say you bed down. Was it a certain time every night you went to bed, or?
No, it was usually just, and it just depended on habitation of, or population of people. Certain times, if there was, if it was at 5 o'clock in the evening, that'd be really early for me most of the times.
Mhm.
But if it was 5 o'clock, there, usually a lot of times there's a lot of people out. But I found a couple places because this route took me in a lot of non populated scenic areas, if you
Okay.
know what I mean. Took me through a
Okay.
lot of industrial, a lot of a lot of the back end of towns, which was kind
Okay.
of interesting. It's funny how, like, I was thinking about that the other day. It was funny how, like, you get all this picturesque scenic things on the major highways, and I think that's strategically done because if you go the back roads of the same road itself, just 30 years younger, 41 instead of 75, 25 instead of 75, whatever it is, it sends you through real America, which is kind of really kind of cool if you
Hmm.
think about it in that way.
Yep.
Hey, Mike, you said you left on June 15th, which was Father's Day,
Yep.
and you arrived on June 26th. So,
Yep.
12 days on the road.
Yes, sir.
How did you divide that up? Did you just divide it up, the distance by 12, or did you just kind of stop based upon how you were feeling, or was it very
No,
planned out,
so yeah, so
systematic?
like I said, it planned out in the sense that I like 100 miles a day.
Okay.
I think it sounds good in my head. Now, I mean, obviously, there were days I got 110 miles. There was days that I got 95 miles. Averaged out. I mean, I average out 100 miles a day. So that in my head is like, I don't strategically plan it to a dot on my GPS or a dot on the map. I don't know where that 100-mile ends. So a lot of times that 100-mile ends at a truck stop, or a through that goes, connects a highway to another industrial part of the highway patrol, like the ODOT or the whatever you call them.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, just 100 miles, 100 miles.
Hmm.
Sometimes when it's, or to be truthfully honest with you, is when I'm done, when I'm tired, when I'm
Yeah.
wrecked. When I can't think anymore, which I can't think anyway. When you ride a bike, it seems like it's like one of these days I'm going to find the answers to all the problems, all my problems and all everybody else's problems on these bike rides.
Right.
Jeez Louise, that ain't true. Cause your knee tells you something, then your toe tells you something, then your butt tells you something, then your neck tells you something, and it's like, quit talking to me. I just want to find the answers. But it
Yeah.
hurts sometimes. It hurts real good. I still can't feel my pinkies for some reason. I don't know what's going on there.
Hmm.
I tell you, Mike, it's amazing, and you are a shining light for a lot of people. Um, particularly, being at Portsmouth High School. I just think your story is amazing because you can deal with mind over matter. And we deal with a lot of kids that could use that.
Oh,
Hey,
facts.
I'm in a difficult situation, and you in your great, wonderful way walking down the hall can say, "Hey, man, hey, come ride a bike with me for 12 days,
That's right.
100."
Absolutely.
And that really puts it in
Yeah, I
perspective.
mean, yeah. Yeah, that mental escape is hard for a lot of people, and it's I'm fortunate enough to be able to do it. Like you said, I mean, throughout our year, we put on that hat that we do it for those kids because they need it the most, and then when it comes to us, sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. So like this is my time to have that mental lapse and that need of escape, and it's for sure recenters me. Yeah, yeah.
Well, and the thing of it is, man, if you could somehow bottle your mental approach to it and sell it, man,
All
hey,
these cats would be goofy,
I,
coach.
And
All these cats would be goofy if they had what's inside here.
April can have April. Your wife April could have whatever art museum she wanted, baby.
There she go. There she go. There it is.
Hey, Mike,
Yes, sir.
where do you think I mean, obviously you got to have a lot of mental toughness to do what you've done. Where does that come from? Is that something just innate, or is that something you've learned over time and developed over time?
I don't know. I mean, that'd probably be a great question for my parents. Maybe I don't know. I don't think 90% of my life growing up, I feel like I've always been the goofy guy. I never let anything really get to me, and I think the things that I do when I do them is, my like I was talking earlier, my mental escape. So maybe I just eat a lot. Maybe I just put a lot on my shoulders. I walk through life as nothing's wrong sometimes, and even though if there is, I think it's just, you know, I don't know. I'll just use this as an example. I hitchhiked to Florida when I was 17, like Gene told you earlier. I think it was, just even at 17 years old, I think I still had that. I still had the same mentality I do now. I love people. I love the communications. I love, every aspect of good humans. And, I listen and I learn and I absorb. And I think, I need these kind of escapes to release a lot of that mental that's not mine,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes any sense. To
Oh yeah.
release what's not mine.
Yes.
I don't know. I kind of like that part. Yeah. I hold a lot in.
Mm-hmm.
And this might be my yelling out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good at that.
How hard is it to keep your loved ones, your wife and your daughters, and of course family, all how difficult is it to keep them calm just when you go out on these trips and not knowing where you're at, or all the uncertainties?
Well, Ape's good at making sure that I contact her all the time. Um, the rest of the fam, let's be real. We just all kind of like, I didn't even know my mom was gonna. This is crazy too. So I didn't even know my mom was gonna have hip surgery. So my mom had hip surgery, held it from me. She had hip surgery on the 17th, but she held back from. She didn't want to tell me because she didn't want me not to go on the trip. All
Oh.
right, so that's crazy town. So communication wise, I mean, right there, we have a lack of it. But the wife and the kids, the little one would say, "You're gonna give mom a heart attack." The little big would said, "Your mom gonna give mom a heart attack." So we had to just, yeah, especially at the nighttime. Nighttime's a little different than the daytime. Daytime, she tracks me on my phone. Even at night, she tracks me on my phone too. But still, it's like, you just don't know about nighttime. It's a
Right.
little trickier. It's a little tougher. I don't like to ride too much at night. I will if I have to, but I didn't. Yeah, but bedding down and all that good stuff. But yeah, we were good. Service wasn't very good. And I'm not going to dog my network, but I think it was my network. We don't plug that on the internet though, do we?
Now, did you take weapons with you, or you just is that something that you do or you don't do?
Yeah. So a lot of people want me to carry. It's like, why do I want to carry? Like, I'm on a bicycle, and you want me to, like, say you want me to carry. I feel like a wild west right there. Like, I'd have to train. Like,
Right.
I'd have to pedal and shift. And what do you want me to do? Like, are you saying when I'm sleeping? I mean, either or.
Right.
No, I don't. I have a little pocket knife that I have.
Right.
It's served me well in the past.
Yeah.
We're all good. Yeah, I
Okay.
don't. I have a little bit better faith in humans, and let's get real. Like I said, I rode through the real part of America,
Right.
or at least on this side of it, and there's a lot of houseless humans.
Oh yeah.
So you kind of in my situation, I kind of just blended in.
Yeah.
I just had a
Right.
little bit of fancier version of what they makeshift up.
Right.
Yeah. So
Well, most people that know you, and like you say, man, you spend a lot of time at the prison, and guys that worked at the prison with you, we all knew that you just had that something about you that you didn't work on a unit a lot, but when you did, you could just diffuse things based on just your humor and experience. So you could take a kid that was going crazy, and somehow, some way, you could get that kid to calm down and do what he needed to do before the 15 other guys come through the door and put him where he needed to be.
I learned that by watching Crocodile Dundee.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just yeah, I put myself in a position all the time to understand the person.
Right,
I don't even if I didn't get to know you more than 5 seconds, I'm
right,
still gonna get to, I can already read you. I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm that good at that, but I'm pretty good at human interaction.
right.
I think that's just one of my, you know, humbling, but I think that's one of my attributes,
Yes.
and I thank you for pointing that out too. But yeah, I like fantastic humans. I
Yeah,
do, even if they're a little rough around the edges.
that's right.
Mhm. Mhm. So, Mike, how do you think a trip like this? How does that change you and make you a better teacher, a better person? How does it change you when you do something to this magnitude?
Yeah, like I said, I think it just humbles me. I mean, I cried 3 or 4 times on this damn thing. I
What?
mean, I did. I cried when I left. I mean, not I didn't let anybody see that part, but
Mhm.
I cried when I left. I cried when I got here, and I cried a couple times, out and about. And it wasn't necessarily they weren't sad. They weren't sad.
Mhm.
It was I don't know. It's humbling.
Mhm.
Pure humble. I mean, it takes me back to square one. I mean, I'm blessed to be where I am to be able to do what I do.
Mhm.
You know, I
Yeah.
mean that's all there is to it. You know, I, yeah, I'm just thankful
Well,
to be
and
able to have this opportunity.
and I can kind of relate to some of what you're saying. I mean, I've kind of followed your trip. Uh, heard you was doing it, and then once you start doing it, for those 12 days, I kind of felt like I was with you. You know,
Hmm.
so every day there was a text. I would kind of respond, and when I went to bed at night, when I'm saying my prayer, I'm thinking about you. For
Yeah, yeah,
whatever reason. So I mean, I can get the humbling side of it, and I can get the Lord, thank God he got there. He was safe. We can now talk about this great 12-day trip that ended up, where you are today.
yeah, yeah. I just wish I had better stories. There was, like I said, it was very quiet.
Mm-hmm,
It was eerily quiet.
mm-hmm,
I don't know if it was just the simple fact that I was crisscross applesauce and uh like I said, 75, 25, 41, and all that all the way down. And it was no one approached, no one said anything. There was no looks, there was no it was none. It was eerily quiet.
mm-hmm,
It was something.
mm-hmm,
And I just, I love coming back with a good story. And
mm-hmm.
the only good story I have is I made it.
Right. That's
And yeah, I mean, which is a good story, but
mhm,
it's like, I still wanted a couple little zingers, a little zapper here and there, and, a little unawkward and,
mhm.
but no, it was all quiet. Really nice, peaceful.
So, is it too early, or do you have anything planned for the future? Something that you want to do? Another
Yeah,
trip?
like I said, I mean, in 2027, I've been fingers crossed, and my body and my brain and my livelihood is still the same. I really would like to do the coast to coast, west coast to east coast. Um, you know, and then I'll probably just pop in a few of the rail trails that we have surrounding us. The OTET, you know, which goes from Cincinnati to Cleveland, which is fantastic. It's 326 miles of pure just delight. And then you got the gap in the CNO that's right next door to us, Pittsburgh to DC, another 300 and some miles of pure delight. And then you got the Ohio to Erie Trail, Canal Trail up in New York, another 326 miles of pure delight trail. You know, so those are delightful, is what I say, is because there's no cars. That's the best part. You know, it's all rail trail, and it's just, you know, it's subtle, humble. It's just, yeah, it's delightful. If you just want a quick weekend. But yeah, that's it. Coast to coast. Yeah, I don't have anything else really planned up. I don't. Plus two, one thing about me is I don't like to plan. You know, that's a hard thing for me. Like I'll set a date for something, but I don't. Like I said before, I'm not a big planner, and I need to do a better job at that. But I know that's one of my weaknesses, and I'm okay with it.
Mike, one more question. I have, Chad Hammond's a teacher in the Port City school system.
Oh yeah,
Big, he likes to ride motorcycles, and he's taken
absolutely
several long trips.
Oh yeah, he's been a coast to coasters.
But he's always done it with a partner. Could you see yourself doing a bike trip with a partner, or would you rather do it by yourself?
Yeah, my wife's always asked me that, and then well, I'll give you the first one. My first trip I did with my brother, Jonathan, who's a great dude. Had some has some issues along the lines of drugs and mental issues and things like that. And I figured this would be a fantastic opportunity to take him, and we went, and it was good, and it was good, and it was a lot. There was a couple struggle moments that I felt were in control, that could have been controlled, that were out of control, and it turned the trip into not so delightful anymore. So ever since then, I kind of went solo. I don't do group rides or anything in that nature either. The closest I get to riding with buddies is like Cole and Fannin and those guys. We go out to the woods, or like I said, the pump track or the skate park. Yeah, I like the idea that I'm by myself. I like that I have to rely 99% of it on by myself. I think I need that for myself, right? I think it's because we get to a point in our lives when we count on others to help us, like say our wives or our husbands or our other loved ones, and you know our kids and things like that. And I think that it's nice to be able to put a lot on your own shoulders without the secureness of your docile, in a sense, or any of your rightful belongings. You're out there just, you know, solo, and it's quite fantastic. It is saddening though too. Let's get real. Like I haven't seen my wife in, what are we going on, almost 15 days, and she rolls in tonight at 10 o'clock, and I'm excited as all get out. But there's sometimes that solitude gets a little bit, holy crud. I got to go to Walmart just to talk to somebody. That's how rough this last bit's been. Yeah. Yeah.
Mike, I think, buddy, I think you're untapped, and I guess I'm kind of a lobbyist, kind of for selfish reason. I'm a Portsmouth guy, Portsmouth City School guy. So happy that you're there. So happy that they have you. But I just there's some things I just think that from a mental standpoint you bring to the table that we gotta get to the forefront with our kids in the district, because what you do and what you can potentially do for our kids is you can't find every day.
I appreciate that, Coach.
And so the struggle and the fact that you say, hey, you know what, I need to be on my own. the insecurity of being on my own. I got to make these decisions. That's a lot of our population.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think you help those guys and girls navigate through tough things that they go through because you experience it and you're right there in the building with them. And a lot of times we don't realize the resources that people have just because we don't have communications or conversations like this. So, you know, it's one thing to think, okay, Mike he rides a bike. Well, riding a bike is one thing. Riding 1,200 miles is something different. You know, you got to figure out how to fix a tire, and you got to figure out where you're going to eat and where you're going to sleep. And all of that requires communication that, you know, most of us humans, including me, would be scared to death to think that I'd get on a bike and ride and not.
And that's fact. I mean, my first 60 miles. This takes me back to Phil Day. God dang, I need to call the man. Middle of nowhere, Kentucky. There's no gas station. There's all kinds of gas stations. They all shut down. And he said they all shut down during COVID time. But I mean, there was a good stretch at 40 miles that I didn't see a single human being, nor a gas station or anything like that. And I was running awfully low on water, awfully low on water. And I popped up on top of this hill that was god awful, and I got up on top of this hill, and this brightly colored man wearing a Hawaiian shirt was up at the top of this hill, and I said, "Sir," I said, "can you tell me the closest gas station?" And then his wife says, "Yeah, maybe 3.5 miles that way." And I said, "I thought I just came from that way, and there wasn't a gas station that way." But I guess there was another road to the side of there. But anyhow, this delightful man took me in, gave me a couple glasses of water, a Gatorade, a hat that almost made it this far, and it didn't. I tried my best to keep it, and it just wouldn't stay on my bike. It started to deteriorate anyway. But Phil Day, he was a great man. I mean, he literally got me through the next 30, 40 miles because of that water. You know, so I really appreciate it. But like you were talking, just communication wise, I mean, it's just being able to, you know, just in that aspect, just can we do it? Can we say hello to a neighbor, to a stranger?
Right.
That's tough. Nobody does that anymore.
Yeah, obviously, Mike, Eugene knows you a lot better than I do. My brother, Chris Cole, he knows you very well. I know we've met maybe once or twice in passing.
Yes, sir.
But I can tell you right now, just listening to you and what I've heard about Michael Deacon, you know, I'm a fan, and I definitely respect what you've done. And
I appreciate that.
The most important thing to me, you're just a good human being that is cares about people, you know.
Yeah.
And that's lacking in our world today. So
yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. I love the people. Love them. And yeah, that's my jam. I wish I could do.
I have no doubt. Whatever trip you decide to do next, you're gonna get it done. I have no doubt.
Let's hope. So there's a couple cross countries that you get you got the top tier, the middle tier, and then you got that lower tier. They get shorter as they keep on going down. So I'm gonna be taking that southern tier. No, I'm kidding. I'll probably take that middle tier. Yeah. Maybe the top tier looks rough, man. That's like 4,800 miles, and like the middle tier is like 4,300, and then like the bottom tier is like 3,600. I don't know. Yeah. So, but if I do those, I'm still going to try to do the 100 miles a day, and see if I can do it in 45 days or something like that. Because them cats out there are doing it every day, and like the Trans Am race that they do, man, these people are getting across the country in like 20 days. They're just floating. They make you just go, oh. How are you going? How are you doing that? You know, that's training, that's commitment. Them cats are getting paid to do that kind of stuff. I get paid to teach. They don't let me ride a bike unless they let me ride my trainer in the building every day.
Right. But like I said, I think I don't know what that is, but my feeling is there's a calling for you in that building, and we just got to tap into that resource that you have, man, because
I appreciate that.
you're a hell of a dude, man, and I'm glad that I ran across you, and we were able to continue to stay friends, through our, do our job at the prison and ended up at the school together, and
Yes, sir.
just yeah, you're wonderful, man.
Thank you, Coach.
Mike, is there anything you want to add or share before we get off here?
No, I wish I had some. I wish I had some wisdom to pass out there, but no, I mean, but riding bikes is it brings you back to your younger days. Just keep it at that. I mean, just if you're scared of it, don't get scared of it. Just hop on that bad boy and go,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just go.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got.
Well, Mike, man, we appreciate your time and
Appreciate you
a lot of
guys.
accomplishment. And Portsmouth City Schools is lucky to have you. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Thank
Lucky
you
to
very
have
much.
you. Yeah, yeah. And your wife. And your wife.
That's
Absolutely.
right. Don't forget about that deacon. That the number one deacon right there.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's
That's
right.
right. That's
Oh,
right.
Drink,
Yeah.
baby.
All right,
Yes,
Mike.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you for
All right.
sharing
Thank
your
you
story.
guys.
And
Yeah.
wish you the best in the future.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
All right. All right,
All right,
man.
guys.